This so
Hey, baby.
okay, so this is the seventh text. We're about in the in the middle of it. We're just talking about the offenses to the holy name, and so I'll just go over that
Okay.
real quick, just to take off where we're left off. Um, there are three stages in chanting the holy name of the Lord: the offensive stage, the stage of lessening offenses, and the pure stage. When neophyte takes to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, he generally commits many offenses. There are 10 basic offenses, and if the devotee avoids these, he can glimpse the next stage, which is situated between the offensive chanting and pure chanting. When one attains the pure stage, he is immediately liberated. This is called Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam. As soon as one is liberated from the blazing fire of material existence, he can relish the taste of transcendental life. You ever heard of the 10 offenses of the holy name?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the first one is to blaspheme the pure devotees that are spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's like the worst offense. And you know, there are nine other offenses. I mean, you can look it up, and we went over those last time. So why don't you read the next paragraph here?
Okay. The conclusion is that in order to get freed from the material disease, one must take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for creating an atmosphere in which people can take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. One must begin with faith, and when this faith is increased by chanting, a person can become a member of the society. We are sending Sankirtana parties all over the world, and they are experiencing that even in the remotest part of the world, where there is no knowledge of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra attracts thousands of men to our camp. In some areas, people begin to imitate the devotees by shaving their heads and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra only a few days after hearing the mantra. This may be imitative, but imitation of a good thing is desired. Some imitators gradually become interested in being initiated by the spiritual master and offer themselves for initiation.
If one is sincere, he is initiated, and this stage is called Bhajana Kriya. One then actually engages in the service of the Lord by regularly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 16 rounds daily and refraining from illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. By bhajana kriya, one attains freedom from the contamination of materialistic life. He no longer goes to a restaurant or hotel to taste so-called palatable dishes made with meat and onions, nor does he care to smoke or drink tea or coffee. He not only refrains from illicit sex, but avoids sex life entirely. Nor is he interested in wasting his time in speculating or gambling. In this way, it is to be understood that is becoming cleansed of unwanted things, anartha nivritti. The word anartha refers to unwanted things. Anarthas are vanquished when one becomes attached to the Krishna conscious movement. Actually, that was my experience. I used to go to bars in the 70s, and go, and I wouldn't even be interested in drinking. I would just get a 7 Up and I'd just sit there, and I don't know why I just continued to go, but eventually I guess gave it up completely. But you just don't, you're not interested anymore.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. So when a person is relieved from unwanted things, he becomes fixed in executing his Krishna activities. Indeed, he becomes attached to such activities and experiences ecstasy in executing devotional service. This is called bhava, the preliminary awakening of dormant love of Godhead. Thus, the conditioned soul becomes free from material existence and loses interest in the bodily conception of life, including material opulence, material knowledge, and material attraction of all variety. At such a time, one can understand who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is and what his Maya is.
Yeah, that's the difference. When you're attached to Krishna, then you can separate everything that's material. Everything, whatever is not related to Krishna is material. Everything that is Krishna. Krishna is everything. But if you think that it's apart from Krishna, in other words, if you want to enjoy separately from Krishna, then it becomes material. you know. Ultimately, everything is spiritual, but if you have this separate mentality of enjoying, then your activities become material because they're not attached and they're not um, leading you to attraction to Krishna. So that is material life. And one becomes disinterested in that because he gets a higher taste, you know. The higher taste comes from hearing about Krishna and serving Krishna. And when you're um, on the constant stage of actually understanding what is Krishna and what is Krishna activities, what is attracting my my service to Krishna, and then one is uninterested in material things anymore. Go ahead, you can read the next paragraph.
Although Maya may be present, it cannot disturb a devotee once he attains the bhava stage. This is because the devotee can see the real position of Maya. Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna, and forgetfulness of Krishna and Krishna consciousness stand side by side like light and shadow. If one remains in shadow, he cannot enjoy the facilities offered by light, and if one remains in light, he cannot be disturbed by the darkness of shadow. By taking to Krishna consciousness, one gradually becomes liberated and remains in light. Indeed, he does not even touch the darkness. As confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara Yatan Krishna Tahan Nahi Mayara Adhikara. Krishna is compared to sunshine, and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of the external energy will immediately vanish.
Yeah, that's like a beautiful analogy. That was actually on the cover of the Back to Godhead magazine. Um, because it says, Back to Godhead, it has a picture of Prabhupada on one side and then the light, and then Lord Chaitanya on the top. This is like the banner of the Back to Godhead magazine.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, I was like, which one are you talking about?
Yeah, well, the banner of Back to Godhead, it says on the top, Godhead is light, nescience is darkness. Where
Uh-huh. I
Godhead,
see.
there's no nescience.
What
So
what is nescience?
nescience means the nescience is ignorance, or uh, nescience is just like the opposite of transcendental science. Uh, oh, Hemang just texted me. He said he's going to be. Let me just text him back here. He's going to
Okay.
be a little late.
Okay, no problem. I'm gonna grab something really quick. Oh, how cute. Are you gonna be attending Ratha Yatra in Pittsburgh at all?
Depends on what I'm doing.
That
I've gotten a ride every day, pretty much. I'm doing a ride tomorrow. When is the Rath Yatra?
it's Friday.
Friday. Okay. Well, I'll see.
Mhm.
Um, you know that Nrsingadev in New Vrindavan?
Yeah.
Let me show you a picture here. Uh, let's see here. The Soma, he's the one that created that Murti. Actually, I'm not going to show it right now because I don't want to waste any time. But Soma is the sculptor who created that deity, and he's coming in from with his wife from Massachusetts. He
Oh,
created all kinds of things in the what do you call it? In New
temple.
Haven, like all the sculptures and the big elephant in the driveway and,
Oh, okay.
and the swan boat. I
Oh,
mean, so many things. So he's pretty expert. He also helped with that Gordy tie, those big, huge Gordy tie days.
Oh gosh, yeah, those are like
Those are pretty awesome, aren't they?
the first time I visited, even before I knew anything. I was like, man, there's intense vibes around these Gora Nitai, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, are people praying to these Gora Nitai? Like, what's going on here? Because I walked up to them and I was like, again, at that point, I didn't really understand anything about Krishna consciousness. I was
Yeah.
basically just on a field trip, and I was like, there is like magical energy around
Yeah,
these
for
texts.
sure. Even the books, when I first became interested in the books, I was living in Whitewater, Wisconsin. That's a university town. My father was a professor, physics professor at that university, University of Wisconsin, and I was interested in the books, and I checked out a bunch of books because they're all in all the college libraries. In the 70s, they were put in all the college libraries by this traveling band of devotees that you know, they had a library party. And so I was carrying the books and I felt like I was carrying something in my arms. It wasn't like an ordinary thing. I was feeling like a presence. And that was like a totally mystical experience, and actually that's true. These are not ordinary things. Those aren't ordinary murtis. I mean, in India, they have tons of things like that. They have like Hanuman up in the northern part of India. They have huge 30-foot tall Hanuman deities. Like the monkey warrior of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know Hanumanji.
yeah, yeah. The big, huge Hanuman murtis like that, just on the side of the road. Oh, there's what's her name?
Isis.
Oh, that's ISIS. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
It's
Egyptian.
not like the terrorist ISIS.
No, she's Egyptian like Osiris.
Yeah, Osiris.
Osiris and Isis and Horus.
Yeah, those are Egyptian goddesses.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, she's very fluffy. We had a cat like that. I can see all the fur taken out of her.
Yeah, she has to pretty much get her bottom shaved now every month because otherwise it's hard for her to clean herself
Yeah,
with this kind of
we
coat.
had a very furry cat um like that. Big foofy tail would always walk around with her tail in the air.
Aw.
But
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
that was her name actually. Aw.
aw.
Yeah, well, I picked her up at the pet store, and I was hanging out by the cage, and some people said, "Are you adopting that cat?" And I said, "Yeah," and they said, "Aw," and I said, "That's her name."
Yeah.
So we named her Aw. But anyway, we only adopt pets from shelters now, or like Humane Society, that type deal, because we don't want to like do a kitty or puppy factory. Those are horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue here.
You got it. I'm just gonna be brushing all this puff off while we read.
All right.
It's like shorning a sheep or something over here.
Can you see that?
Uh, no. What are you? I'm just looking at the same text.
Oh, yeah.
Krishna is compared to sunshine. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of this chat.
Okay. Okay.
So we're actually at the end. Uh, so text 8. This is text 8 now.
Oh, good.
Tan namarupa charitadi sankirtanu smrityo kamena rasana manasi niyojya nistan vraje tad anurangi ragi manasa niyojya, or no, anuragi jananugami kalabnayad akilam iti upesha saram. Let's see here. Why don't you go ahead and read the translation? We don't have to do the word for word.
Sure. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavana Dhamma, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Oh, wow. How'd you do that?
I'm just trying to figure out where I'm trying to share this application here. Oh, sharing, screen sharing. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's a good girl.
All right. So, purport. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. That reminds me of something Prabhupada's spiritual master said, the mind is an enemy. But actually, Raghunath Das Goswami, one of Lord Chaitanya's personal associates, uh, he wrote a book called Sri Mana Shiksha. It's like instructions to the mind. The mind can be your best friend, or the mind can be an enemy as well. So to train the mind, you have to, like Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, that in the morning when you get up, you got to beat your mind with shoes. And then in the evening, you have to beat it with a broomstick. In order to, because the mind is not a Vaishnava. Mind is if your mind is uncontrolled, you have to control the mind by the intelligence, and the intelligence has to be controlled by the soul. If your mind is not fixed up in the devotional service of Krishna, then the mind is uncontrolled. It's like an unbridled horse, and the senses are running away with the carriage of the horse. And the five senses are like the five horses, and the charioteer, the chariot is like the mind, and then the soul is on the in driver's seat, but he's not in control of the chariot if his mind is running wild. So you have to control the mind. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the Krishna conscious movement is specially meant for training the mind to always be engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds of thousands of impressions, not only in this life, but also many, many past lives. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8:6, it is said, Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati kalevaram tam tamavate konteya sattad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. That there was a sage who was actually a great king, and he renounced his kingdom and he went to perform austerities in the forest because that's what you're supposed to do, to get detached from material life. And so he was in the forest, and all of a sudden a lion roared, and there was a pregnant deer that was right by the river, and the deer was startled, and it miscarried the fawn that the deer was carrying, the doe was carrying, and the fawn fell down into the stream, and so the sage picked up the little fawn and started raising it, and it became attached. He became attached to the fawn, and so, the fawn was very affectionate to him too, and he just became, he said, even though this deer is actually kind of disturbing my devotional activities, it's my duty to maintain it. And so he became attached to the deer, and he was always thinking of the deer. And one day the deer walked away, and he was like searching for it, and he died in the forest when He just happened to pass away when he was searching for the deer, and he became a deer in his next life.
Mhm.
So that's the whatever state of being one quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. You go ahead and read the next paragraph.
Okay. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavana. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna prasada. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tistan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavana or any part of Rajabhumi. Rajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavana, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. One krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavana his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami and his Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu.
Go
Krish-
ahead.
Krishna smaran janam chasya prashtam nija samihitam tat tat kata ratas chasau kuryad vasam vraje sada. I can't see the rest because your image is there you go. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Raja and always engage in Krishnam Smaranjanam Chasya Prashtam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, we shall follow in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. We're Dasa Das Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayar Bas Das Anudas. Uh, it means we're the servants of the servants of the servants of the gopis and Krishna's beloved associates. Again, Sri Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12295, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsuna karya vraja lokanu sarata. In the transcendental realm of Raja, of Rajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purusha, or spiritually perfect soul. In other words, you always have to be in, following in the footsteps of, whatever is attracting you to whoever is in the pastimes of Krishna that you're most attached to. Like, I like to, one of my favorite devotees is Prahlad Maharaj, because, I worship him on the altar. But, he was only 5 years old, but he was smarter than a lot of the people nowadays.
Yeah. Well, plus, even like when you read his transcendental, like when you read some of his dialogue, what he was saying, it's
Yeah, the prayers. He actually touched Lord Nishingadev, even though he was only a child. He touched his Nishingadev touched his conch on his head, or touched his head, and he just started saying these prayers. It gave him the
um
speak these prayers, beautiful prayers to Lord Nishingadev. Okay, go ahead and read the next verse. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely, oh, excuse me, Excuse me, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavana and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service.
Yeah, I'm just reading this chapter, and just reading the how the devotees related with Prabhupada. There were hundreds of devotees in Mayapur, and they all were just like just wanted to be with Prabhupada, just wanted to be in his presence and hear him uh, speak. And he was always just so congenial, and he was so humble, but he was so relatable at the same time. He was just like the perfect instructor because he was not thinking that anything was his own doing. He was always motivated by Krishna, and therefore the devotees could see Krishna through him every day. And it was just wonderful for them to be in the holy Dham of Mayapur, where it was the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. And that place has special, just like when you saw those big murtis of Gaura Nitai, those are representations of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and that place where they appeared is also very special. And those are the holy dhams. When you go to the holy dham, your intensity of realization increases so much just because of the effect of the place.
Mm.
In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Das, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Das. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarnavasta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the five items of progressive Krishna Smarna. Smarna means remembering. At
Mhm.
first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. That's what Prabhupada was saying, when they were distributing books all over in the 1970s, late in the mid 70s. They were doing marathons at Christmas time and they were working so hard and they're distributing thousands of books at the airports and especially during Christmas time because that was kind of like the marathon time for devotees. And Prabhupada said it's just like a trance. Devotees, nobody could work that hard unless they were in that stage of meditation. So he was like it was like a samadhi. You know, devotees were constantly working, they're hardly sleeping at all. They would only sleep a few hours, then get up and go out and do and distribute books again. It was amazing. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted in intervals, and then later the proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After samadhi das or samadhi has fully developed, the soul becomes to understand his original constitutional position. In other words, you understand your relationship with Krishna. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampati das, the perfection of life. Okay, this is the last paragraph.
Okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service and spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavana. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Santa Rasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps. Can you scroll up?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. In the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, or Raktaka. In the friendly Sakya rasa, one can become a friend like Baladeva, Sridama, or Sudama. In the Vatsalya rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaja and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one could become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita and her serving maids, Mangyaris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service.
Yeah, Shantaras is like the neutral stage. Like you'd be the cows, they're just observing Krishna. They have like a neutral relationship, you know. Uh, they're not really friends with Krishna or servant of Krishna, but they're just they have that relationship, like the cows or stick or the flute in the hand or the flowers around Krishna's neck. And dasiras, dasi means servitude. Chitraka patraka, they'll, Krishna will be tired and they'll massage his legs, when he gets tired or, fan him or something. And then Shakiras, you become like a friend of Krishna, like the cowherd boys of Sudam or Sridam, and etc. So, do you have any questions or comments?
Uh, about this, no. I was wondering though, because you used to live in New Vrindavan, right?
Yeah.
Mm. Have you ever stayed in the ashram for any length of time?
Which ashram? The Brahmachari ashram?
Like I'm just
The
asking.
lodging or
No, 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 no. Like been
in
an
the
active
temple?
participant in the ashram where you do service and you stay there.
Yeah, all through like from 1970, like when I joined and I became initiated in 1979, and I was living there until like 1982 or 83, and then I went out on Sankirtan. I was out collecting funds and for the temple, but I was living in the Brahmachari ashram. They had the two different Brahmachari ashrams. There was a little shack that was across from the palace. That's no longer there.
Oh.
Uh,
I was
but
I was wondering if you had advice just for me because I wanted to stay in the women's ashram and do service.
yeah, I mean, that's a really good idea. I mean, I just brought a woman from Hungary, actually. No, wait. Where is she from? Uh, anyway, she was from a foreign country, but she wasn't from Hungary, but she was from some foreign country, and she wanted to stay in the ashram. And so she's there for 11 days now, and they'll accommodate you, like if you do service, what you have to do is probably call, and then they can set up, make an arrangement for you to stay in the temple area.
Do you have like I'm kind of nervous about like maybe waking up early and doing Mangala Arti, like am I really going to be able to handle that is kind of like what I'm worried about. Like what if I can't handle like the schedule, you know what I mean? And I just like burn myself out or I get like irritated or something from lack of sleep.
Well, I mean, the Mongol arti. Um, it's you can let me see that the temple schedule is nowadays. So hold on a second. Temple schedule, Mangal Arti
It's at 5.
is at 5 in the morning. Now, you know, I mean, you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there, especially if you're tired, if you're up late, or if you're sick. We used to have like different clubs. You'd have the Tulsi Club, and one the Tulsi, and then the Shringadev Club, and then if you miss the whole thing, then you go to the Breakfast Club. Breakfast is at 9 o'clock,
Right, right.
every morning. But it's not like if you're in the temple, maybe people will, you know, I don't think they're gonna like force you to go, especially if you're tired. But it's always encouraged to get up and then you can always take rest later on in the day. But it's not like you're forced to do anything.
Okay.
But it's you can engage in service and ask to be engaged in that way. I would just call the main number and just inquire.
Okay.
Like there are there are people that are in charge of that thing, especially with the women's ashram there um, in the temple area.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of making arrangements to do it. I
Oh,
just
that's really nice. I mean, I really kind of envy you. I wish I was a brahmachari still. Sometimes
really
I wish I could live in like Atlanta because they got like a bunch of fired up brahmacharis that are going out distributing books every day. But my wife said that, we're not moving, and she made that very clear.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't really have any attachments, my only attachments here are, my elderly parents.
Yeah.
And this was planned a while ago because I teach during the school year and I have summers off. So
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So it's perfect for you.
it's perfect for
How
me
old is,
because yeah,
how old is your father?
he's gonna be 80.
Really? Oh, wow. So he's older than I am even. I thought I was old.
Well, I'm 43. I'm gonna be 44.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not really as young as I look. And then he had me when he was 35.
Right. Yeah.
So, he's 79. And I guess the idea that I had was that, New Vrindavan is close enough that I can always go there on weekends and festivals and do
Yeah.
like summer service.
Yeah. Well, if you spend any length of time there, you can get to know various devotees and like take advantage of the association of really advanced devotees like Varshana Maharaj, who is building his temple up there and across from the palace. I mean, that is the main thing, just to be able to spend some time with a really advanced devotee like that. That's the essence of actually being in the holy Dham. It's just, there's a verse from the Bhagavatam that says, you shouldn't just like think of going to the New Vrindavan just as a place to take a bath in the holy river or whatever, but you wanted, without inquiring from the saintly people that live there, it's really kind of it's not really utilizing the total
Right, right,
package, which is association with the saintly devotees. That's
right,
the main thing. And because one moment's association with a devotee, it's like they say that one instant association with a pure devotee, it says lava mater. A lava is an 11th of a second. And somebody asked Prabhupada about that in the last chapter I was reading. What is the meaning of 11th of a second association? How can that change somebody's life? Because it says a lava mater is just the only amount of time that's necessary sometimes for people to become advanced in Krishna consciousness just by an 11th of a second. He said, what does that mean? He said, it's just like a kindling, igniting, a leaf or a paper, that you become ignited by that momentary association, and that stays with you, because it's very powerful, the association of devotees, and especially a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada.
Mhm.
And it might not happen for, for years, or it might not happen, but eventually it's going to take over, and it'll change your life eventually. But because it once your soul is ignited and that seed is planted in your heart, then it just grows. If you keep on watering it with hearing and chanting, it's like a creeper. You keep watering it. We're like gardeners, and we water the creeper of our devotional creeper, and it grows all the way up to the spiritual world, and then it takes shelter in the feet of Krishna. And then that's the goal of life. So we just have to keep watering it by hearing and chanting and
Yeah.
associating with the devotees and taking prasadam.
Yeah.
Very,
Mhm.
very simple. That's all I have to do. And it's a really good place to experience that, because then you're a little bit regulated. You have you have association all the time. Whereas at home, you might not, I mean, we have these programs here, but there's so many devotees that you can hang out with, and you can worship the deity in the temple, and that's very
Mhm.
beautiful. And
Great.
so, I'm looking that's really good that you're doing that.
Yep.
Have
Thank you. I
you
went there, I went for 24-hour kirtan and on my way out, Malati was on her way in.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
saw her coming and I was like, Malati, hi, it's me. My name's Alyssa. We met a couple times before. Hi, how are you? And she came up to me and she's like, like put her hands on my face and like shook my face and stuff. And I was like, wow.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
She's
oh, he touched
those
my face.
devotees like her and Mother Jayashree. She's the one that arranges all the rides. They're both friends, but they're initiated in the '60s, the late '60s.
Yeah.
Mother Jayashree, she was initiated in Hawaii in 1968. But I remember a similar thing happened to me, like she just walked up to me one time. She had a big, beautiful garland. It was Radharani's garland. She just put it around my neck and just walked away without even saying anything. It was just amazing. It's like, what did I do to deserve this?
Oh, I know. I felt so special. I was like, Malati grabbed my face. I was like, yay.
Yeah, she's such a great devotee. I mean, she's went through so much and was one of the pioneers in England. And her husband met the Beatles and everything. I mean, she's got such a history. But anyway, yeah, these personalities are all there. So to take advantage of them while they're still there,
I
because
know.
they're not going to be around there for forever. We have
Yeah.
to utilize this time while we're here and they're there, and we have to associate with the
Yeah.
devotees.
Yeah. I have
Thank
to.
you.
I
Thank
agree.
you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for your time and everything. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, well, like the next one is on Tuesday, and we
Okay.
usually start that at 7 o'clock. But I'll send a reminder to everybody. Hopefully, Zoe and Hemant can join us then. So,
Okay.
so Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We'll see you later.